is you need to have much more relationship management because your manufacturing, which is mission critical, is not being done by you. So now what? How do you maintain accountability for something that's happening in somebody else's company? And the challenge is you have to engage with peers to solve problems in real time, such as being on allocation, or having a quality problem, or having a supplier default, or having a shortage because there's a massive demand. Okay? There aren't answers. The questions you have cannot be answered by any computer, including Watson, because they don't exist in any computer. They exist in people's heads. And so what's happening is the burden of the new management model is falling on middle management, not on top management, and not on frontline management. The middle management is the cartilage that holds together the disaggregated value chain. That's what's happening right now. And in fact, so middle managers, who we used to think of as, frankly, kind of gears to take stuff from the top down to the bottom and data from the bottom back up to the top, in this new world, they're the muscle. They're the muscle and the cartilage and the bone. These are the levers that get things done. Okay? And if you look at that, we realize, you know what? We haven't spent very much money on the middle. These folks in the middle, if you think about all the SAP, ERP, Oracle, all that stuff, that was primarily for frontline optimization, the transaction optimization. And all the business intelligence and all the analytics and all that cool stuff, that's primarily to try to make the executives smart. If you were a middle manager over the last 20 years, what did you get? You got a desktop, but you were never in your office, so that didn't do you much good. You got a laptop, thank you, with a modem, better still. And then you got a BlackBerry score. And that was about it. That was about it. So now, for the first time, we're going, wow, if these are the power players in our world, we have to free them. Right? This is like, go down Moses, let my people go. And if you say, well, what does that freedom look like? What kind of systems do we need to invent? The answer is, we don't need to invent any systems. The systems already exist. The problem is, they're not enterprise systems. Right? They're consumer systems. And you say, well, why don't we just ask Facebook to build an enterprise Facebook? Not going to happen in your lifetime. Consumer companies do not understand the enterprise. Right? They never will. And probably vice versa. Okay? So, but this is an enterprise-oriented audience here. And IBM certainly understands the enterprise. And so the issue is, how would you make a Facebook for the enterprise? How would you make a YouTube for the enterprise? Could we use YouTube? Every product manager in the world wants to use YouTube because they're tired of writing data sheets that nobody reads. Right? A 7-minute video to explain their product, that kind of stuff. And you go down through Twitter, and you go down through the App Store. Everything in the consumer world has an analog. And by the way, if we copy it, instead of trying to redesign it, if we copy it, there's no training, and there's no manual, because they already know how to use it. All we have to do is co-opt it by making it enterprise ready. That's the game. Okay? So in that world, that's the B2B game. And there's an enormous amount of money to be spent if you, with your colleagues, will go into the enterprise and say, we would like to empower the middle tier of your enterprise, who has become the core tier of your enterprise, with the next generation of communication, collaboration, and coordination technologies, modeled after the consumer tools they use already today, but in a world which is secure with a private, public, hybrid cloud, blah, blah, blah. All the evolution of infrastructure, that's the stuff that makes possible the enterprisation of consumer infrastructure. So all that stuff that we're talking about is great, but I want to put it not to more systems of record. Systems of record can live in the cloud, but they don't want to. Systems of record like to live in nice, cozy, warm data centers that nobody can break into. Right? Systems of engagement, on the other hand, want to live in the cloud. Now, you can put a systems engagement in your data center. You can host your own email. You can have portals, and nobody comes. Right? But the cloud is where it wants to be. But an enterprise cloud, a public-private enterprise cloud, is still a work in progress, and it's the work in progress largely that you're engaged in. But I would submit to you that what is funding that today is primarily systems of record optimization and not systems of engagement. And I want to encourage you to say, look, why don't we take these systems of engagement and bring them into the enterprise and change the enterprise forever? The other half of this is business as consumer. So with all this digitization of culture, the battle for the consumer has changed pretty dramatically. As our friends from Borders announced today, I'm a book lover. 2,000 Borders stores are being shut, I think, today because the world has changed. And when our friends at Apple have announced that, yes, you can come to an app store, but give me all of your money and take off all of your clothes, right? Okay, now that's kind of the rules that Steve wants to play by. Okay, so we'll see what happens. But the point is, we're in a new world in this digital world, and it's no longer transactions, it's interactions. So all of a sudden, the relationship between ourselves and the IT system is no longer transactional, it's interaction. And the answers are in the computers. These are in the computers. The problem is they're hard to find, and the latency issue that John was talking about is critical, because the amount of time you have in what's real time to a consumer is probably a second. Now that's not a nanosecond, but it's not a minute, right? It's certainly not 4 seconds, 6 seconds, something like that. So there's very little time. No time for people. No time probably for disk drives, right? This is where master data meets metadata, right? And we're doing inline, online, processing. And you say, and the consumer's saying to us right now, if they're singing that song, if you don't know me by now, you will never, never know me, right? And that now is about a half a second long. So again, if you look at this stuff, now what's interesting about consumer is all the things for consumer are actually very, very technical in the core stack here. These are very, very abstract technologies, right? But if you look at the kinds of how the consumer thinks of these technologies, the things in the little call-out buttons, that's what the consumer actually experiences. They're going, wow, this is really cool. Now, does Apple get this? In spades. Does Google get this? Yes. Does Yahoo get this? Yes. Does Facebook get this? You bet. Does Neiman Marcus get this? Not so much, right? Does Home Depot get it? Does Walmart get it? Well, maybe some. The point is, think about how every consumer-facing system in the world has to be like this. Because the bar has been reset by the media and the search and the online retail companies. So the Amazons of this world and whatnot have reset the bar. So this is sort of like the Amazonization of all retail, all of consumer-facing. By the way, also customer support. So airlines and banks are investing heavily in this stuff because they want to keep you as a customer. They want to keep you as an airline a frequent flyer, et cetera, et cetera. So again, this is money that wants to be spent. Just like the communication and collaboration is money that wants to be spent. And the problem is, we're not helping enough. This is money that wants to move into our sector. It is prime. It is not a hard case to make. Even though the ROI might be hard to quantify in companies who are saying, well, I'm not quite sure, just the emotional pull to do this stuff, and to do this stuff more powerfully is so strong that people are going, look, just if you can do this, come in. So this notion that we should be leading this is part of what I'm trying to evangelize with you today. Now, it doesn't mean we throw away systems of record, right? Systems of record are the interstate highway system. They're the fundamental globalization mechanism that allows that whole outsourcing, globalization, commoditization, that whole model to work. And they need maintenance, and they need upgrading, and they need to get better, faster, cheaper, and all that good stuff. Okay? But the systems of engagement are necessary for that. And there's more. If you think about systems of record, and you say, how much more value can we get out of systems of record than we have today? My sense is we've probably gotten somewhere between 60 and 80% of the value lifetime value, maybe even 85% from systems of record. So yes, there's still another 30, 15, 20, whatever percent more value to go get. If I asked you how much of the total lifetime value from systems of engagement have we tapped into in the enterprise? 5%? 2%? Look how much runway there is. Look how much money wants to be spent in that second area. Here we're kind of playing, we're not playing after the crumbs, but we're kind of playing in a universe that's getting increasingly cramped. The other universe is it's like blue ocean, red ocean. This is a very red ocean. This other one is a big, big, big blue ocean. And it's a matter of putting SOEs on top of SORs. And this public-private hybrid cloud, and all these really interesting, architectural issues that you guys were talking about for the last 2 days, they all underpin this, but they're not the point of it. Because without the systems of engagement pull, the money is going to only come from optimizing what we've already been allocated. Right? It won't be net new money into the industry. Okay. So now you're an IT person. And you sort of, and I've given this speech to a number of CIOs, CIO groups. And this is kind of, they sort of look at you and they're thinking about, Facebook, Google, Yahoo, and then they kind of turn around, they look at their team, Ernie and Martha and Harry and Jack, and they're going, not a black t-shirt, no tattoos, no earrings. They say, you know what? We don't do groovy very well. Okay? This whole user experience thing, whether it's a consumer user experience or an enterprise middle manager's user experience, it's communication, collaboration. We say those words, we don't actually know what they mean. We don't really communicate in our company. We don't really collaborate. We try, but and we certainly don't know how to create delightful online cool thing. We're not very cool. So, and by the way, we're not going to be. I mean, God love, but we're too old. And we're whatever. We're just not, that's not us. So what really can you advise us to do? Because don't make us weird, because it's not going to work. And so we spent a bunch of time with this, on this one. And the insight that came out of that was, for systems of engagement to really, where would you introduce them? And how would they make an impact? You need to identify what we ended up calling moments of engagement. And moments of engagement are the time when your strategy is either made or broken. Now, if you're a product leadership company, that's typically, or could easily be, an adoption moment. Did the customer actually, they bought the thing, did they actually install it, did they use it, did they rebuy it, did the dogs eat the dog food? Right? If you're a customer intimacy company, whatever you provide might be pretty ordinary, but it's all about the trust and the gift of trust that the customer gives you. And so the moment when you can, when you're with a doctor or a financial advisor or anybody in a customer intimacy or teacher, you have that moment, and at the end of that moment, either the relationship went up or it went down. Because people don't come to moments of engagement and trust and stay level. Right? And if you're an operational excellence company, it's much more around a moment of risk or a moment of cost, but it's a moment where you had a chance to optimize, and did you optimize? Did you take the system to the next level or not? And when you think about those moments, the next thing you got to think about is, who in my company is present in the moment of engagement that defines my company? And you can do this exercise twice. The first time you got to do it for yourself. What is my company's strategy? Are we a product leadership company, a customer intimacy, or an operational excellence company? And whichever one we are, what are the moments where our strategy either wins or loses, and that kind of makes or breaks the year? And then who do we have on the ground representing us in that moment of engagement? In product excellence leadership companies, it tends to be a field engineer, an R&D kind of person. In customer intimacy, it tends to be a relationship manager or a customer support type system or person. In operational excellence, it tends to be people, but also systems. Lots of systems. So figure out who is representing you in what critical moment of engagement, and then that is where to attack this new opportunity. To say, look, we're not just putting in Facebook because we've got people under 30 that like to be on Facebook. That's kind of a dumb idea. The right idea, don't give a sock to millennials. That's not the point. You'll just look like an idiot, they'll just confirm that you are an idiot to the millennial. Right? So don't do that. The issue is, no. This isn't about millennial, this isn't about age, this is about a moment of engagement where our company either makes it or breaks it. We want the person who represents us in that moment, or the system that represents us in that moment, to be wonderful. What can the IT community do for us to make that system or person more wonderful? Very, very targeted investment in engagement. I want to close by saying, what might this look like for our industry if this notion goes forward? And everything I said to you